Hello everyone. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Magandang umaga sa Pilipinas and good evening, good night sa nasa west side of the world. I am Abner Delina Jr. and I am the founder artistic director of Black Canvas. And welcome to World at Home, reimagining the world together. And this is an effort of Black Canvas that aims to cultivate collective healing, creation, education, and reimagination, no, with what's happening right now in the world. So we have programs such as Playtime. Soon we'll be launching that, and we also have collab program, and we also have Kids Zone program. And today we are doing the pilot episode of Alive, and this segment is called Alive Redirections. And here we talk to leaders, social movers, and visionaries on their reflections, responses, and visions, no, of the ever-changing world. And we hope and we invite all the artists and arts educators, artist groups from Metro Manila and our friends from the different parts of the Philippines to please join us live so that we can accommodate your questions later on. And we are very happy and to get a yes from a very important person in the arts and cultural industry in the Philippines. And he is the artistic director and vice president of the Cultural Center of the Philippines. And no other than Mr. Chris Millado. Sir Chris, magandang araw po.
Hello.
Nasaan po kayo, Sir Chris?
Let me start my video. You can start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. Okay,
yes.
Unable to start video pa rin.
Good. Akala ko nasa space.
No, I am at the Silangan at SPCP. Mabuhay Pilipinas and hello world. Maraming salamat, Abner. I hope you're doing well there and healthy where you are. I think, where are you right now?
I am in Indianapolis right now in the US. And forgive me if may mga helicopter sounds po kayo or sirens kayo na maririnig. Kasi ongoing ang curfew ngayon and I'm not sure kung ano talaga nangyayari sa other parts.
Bakit nasaan ka? Nasa battlefront ka?
Parang ganun na. It's the end of the world.
Oh, I mean, seriously, yeah, we've been following what's happening in the U.S. because of the demonstrations and the protests going on and the riots going on. So it's medyo nakakabahala, especially that we do have many friends and in communities, especially Filipino American communities living in different parts of the United States. So keep on continuing to be safe there. And just like the rest of the world, we're still like going through this pandemic.
Yes, totoo, sir. I think it's not just the COVID now. There's a collective fear and hope fatigue, poverty, hunger. Ang daming nangyayari sa mundo ngayon, no? Anger.
Yeah. And
sir.
Yeah, yeah. And it's gonna get worse before it gets better. Remember, we're not even out of the woods yet, and we're still practically trying to keep our head above water. So we still need to deal with the aftermath that's still coming around, hopefully sooner. But otherwise, I think we should be prepared then for bigger impact on our communities.
Sir, nasan kayo ngayon? Before we
well, my background is the Cultural Center of the Philippines, but this is a virtual background. This is the Silangan Hall. But as you know, the CCP is building. Although we've returned to GCQ, our skeletal force, no, we're operating on skeletal force. That means we're in very partial operations at this point. We've suspended our operations our season till end of the year. Although if things look up, then we might be restoring some live performances in its hybrid forms, hopefully, soon. If
Mm.
not, we might just be returning to the stage not until next year, 2021.
Mm-hmm. So, but right now, sir, you're joining from
I'm joining
Metro
from
Manila.
my work at home. I'm joining from my place of residence here in Metro Manila. I'm working at
And
home.
you've never
Yes.
gone out of your home, sir,
No, I
since
did.
the.
I actually went back to my office like 1 week or 2 weeks into the lockdown because I needed to retrieve some files to start up our online activities.
Mhm.
So I had to access the CCP. In fact, I have a video of me walking through the empty halls of the CCP. It was quite strange. So that's how I was thinking. My thought balloon was, so this is how it feels to be the phantom of the opera, the phantom of the
Ah,
CCP, as it were.
parang tinatawag.
But anyways, yes, I did step out, and then of course I do step out from my place of residence to do basic necessities like grocery and exercise and so on. Yes.
Mhm. Sir, are you alone? Have you been quarantining alone?
No,
Who's
I have
supporting you?
housemates and a lot of furry companions. I have Labrador. I live with a Labrador and a Beagle and three other human beings. So it's been we've been spending like very productive times, trying to do as much as we can
Mhm.
within the quarantine period. Yes.
Mhm. Sir, siguro to give maybe we can just review a bit during the early parts of the quarantine. Um how was it like during that time in Metro Manila? At least so
Well,
our friends from
it
the.
was full of anxiety and trepidation because nobody knew, and nobody had a really nobody could wrap their heads around what was happening. And I think it wasn't peculiar to Manila. It was a shared anxiety all over the world because nobody knew to what extent the epidemic and the virus could ravage our communities. And of course, it was also filled with a lot of sadness because early on we already had losses in the community. We had an actor who passed away. I don't know if you remember Mengi Covarrubias. He's a veteran of our theater stage. He was the very first one to pass away. And of course, sadly, um, one of the first cryptic messages that keeps on, that's fire branded into my mind and my heart, no? The way he said goodbye was just simply said paalam, and it was an actor's goodbye, no? And then after that, a week after that, we would lose a few other friends who were patrons of the CCP and artists of the CCP as well. So, and it went on, and, so coupled with the fact that we didn't know what was happening all over the world, what the pandemic was all about, there was, of course, a bit of chaos too in terms of how our government responded. Uh, and you were hearing of deaths and so on. So this sort of put one in a very uneasy situation. Yes,
Mhm.
but
Are you still there, sir, in that uneasy situation right
not
now?
anymore. Not anymore. I think 2 weeks after, somehow one began to like cope with. You had to look for your own information, I guess. I mean, thank you to social networking, Google. Thank you to this internet platform, video conferencing. Uh, we try to get back on our feet as much as we can, although online, right?
Mhm.
So happily, the staff at the CCP that were making things run were early adopters to conferencing. So we're able to
Mhm.
get immediately like connect with each other on Zoom, and in 2 weeks' time, we were able to get the wheels running in terms of going online,
Mhm.
and that's what we've been doing. And now we're trying to push it towards making the online
Mhm.
presence even more
Mhm.
palpable
So
and
we're talking
inclusive.
of
Yeah,
CCP programs. What were the things that you have to let go? I mean, how massive, gaano kalaki yung epekto sa
massive. As you
CCP?
know, the CCP does at least 800 live shows a year on its stages, right? And we um, create as many as 3,000 or more jobs for artists, freelance artists. No? And this does not include suppliers, like you have carpenters and caterers and those who provide us with flowers and so on and so forth. So it's been a massive loss. We had to close down CCP till the end of the year, so there will be no live performances on its stages. So you're looking at 800 shows that have been canceled. You're looking at almost more than 3,000 jobs lost. We're talking about you usually attract more than 800,000 audiences to our halls and to our different activities, and not only at the CCP but all over the country, because we do have outreach programs. So that in itself is a loss in terms of reach and connectivity and connections. So we tried to address that immediately by trying to save as many jobs as we can by going online. We tried to save that by trying to create platforms where our audience could continue to connect with us.
Mhm, mhm. I see. So just like any other artist groups from other places, were you able to reconnect, or do you still are you still in dialogue with companies from other parts of the country? Were there anticipated performances that were
Oh
canceled?
yeah. There's quite a few international programs that had to be canceled, big ones, because remember we're in the middle of the 50th anniversary celebration of the CCP, which started September of last year, and we were supposed to cap it with big celebrations at the end of this in September of this year. There were very big international collaborations that were being planned, especially one that was between I don't know if you've heard. The Festival of Lights that's usually done in Sydney Harbor. We were
Mm,
supposed to collaborate with that big lights event here at the CCP and do the same thing at the CCP complex, and we had to cancel all of that. And of course, we had quite a few international and big local productions as well, and of course that needed to be put on hold. With regards connecting and ongoing conversations with similar centers in Asia, uh, interestingly, we hosted a large-scale conference late last year. It was a conference with the Federation of Asian Cultural Promoters and another international alliance called the Asia Pacific Performing Arts Centers Association, which are composed of major centers all over Asia and the Pacific. And that put us in a very good position in terms of conversing with them and connecting with them, especially in these crucial times in terms of what they're doing, and might be learning also from their solutions. So
mhm,
right now, we've started conversing with the networks involved in the Federation of Asian Cultural Promoters. We've started doing forums and Zoom meetings with our local alliance of performing arts venues to
mhm.
check in terms of how they're doing. At the same time, begin to formulate protocols in anticipation of a return to a better normal.
Mm, mm. So, sir, the international programming will still pursue in virtual forms. I mean, or are rescheduled next year.
No, international programming will have to be put on hold. What we're trying to prioritize now is focusing on local initiatives,
Mhm,
because we believe that this should be the strategy. Especially, we should give focus to our local initiatives and our local groups and local content, and see how we could use this to monetize and to sustain this kind of efforts. Yes,
mhm.
so
Speaking,
we're anticipating that even when we get back next year, 2021, on our live platforms, that we will continue to do so. We might have to delay or postpone our international commitments and our international program, and focus first on local programs.
mhm. Sir, speaking of local programs, uh, have you been in contact? And I assume that you mentioned earlier. What's the situation now in Visayas and Mindanao? Like the CCP partners from Visayas and Mindanao and in other parts of Luzon. Uh,
We're still completing our information with regards to that, and the one who's in charge of that is our called CCP outreach program.
mm,
Although Interestingly, Mindanao is pushing through with a program that it already proposed last year in cooperation with CCP, and this is the GADOR program, which is the recognition of outstanding or significant artists and their works in the Mindanao region. So they're pushing through with this program online. So hopefully this is a sign that our regional groups, especially in Mindanao, are also looking for ways to continue their connections with their own communities in Mindanao and nationwide.
Nice. Sir, just to clarify to our audiences also, how much power, say, does the CCP have in terms of um, reaching out to the displaced artists in the Philippines? Are you do you have the resources to say extend support, financial support, or just to be clear with our artist
We have the
community?
resources to put up programs, but we do not have the resources for dolouts. So when we say resources for programs, we need to activate or reactivate programs so that it employs, so that it recruits artists and and pay them for their services. To me, I think this is more impactful than dolouts, because by doing so, you are practically sustaining artists in this time of need, as well as maybe addressing some upskilling or retooling needs that artists can use even outside of CCP projects.
Yes, and so as far as an artist leader, sir, if I'm an artist, I engage in these programs of CCP, say I'm part of this festival, and then that's how CCP can help, right?
Yes. Well, the first thing is maybe think in terms of if you're an artist who were originally scheduled to do a CCP project, is to check in with your programmer or your cultural administrator or arts manager and see the status of this project. And see how you and then find out immediately how you could engage with CCP in its new or modified programs that's responsive to that situation. And one of the things that we decided on as a modification of the strategy of the CCP is to save as many jobs as possible. So we're trying to do that, and we've done an initial survey of all the programs that were canceled and see and try to push the that intent, in terms of how of saving as many jobs as possible and getting as many artists on board as possible that we could pay for, that could be paid for.
But sir, in the early parts of the pandemic, of the quarantine, in the news, lumabas that CCP might be ibebenta, that they will sell CCP.
Yes, that has been an
What's the truth behind that, sir?
We don't know what the truth behind is. There's always like we would like to believe that it's a statement coming from a position of desperation, especially that the government has admitted that its coffers had run dry in terms of finances that will, or budgets that will address COVID. So it has seriously looked into disposing some of its government assets, and CCP and the land that it sits on is considered a government asset. And I believe, or I'd like to believe, that what they refer to as the CCP is the land surrounding the CCP and not the building. But then in itself, it's also, we have to remember that CCP, if we're going to follow the law, cannot be sold and its property.
So they cannot do that?
Well,
they cannot.
by law, yes. But remember,
By
we
law.
are still in emergency powers because of Bayanihan Heal as One Act law. So practically, anyone could, I mean, a person in power could use and invoke that emergency powers to, I guess, I don't know if you could legally, if you could overrule a law like that. But
is there a way to prepare for that, sir, if that happens? I mean, how I could just imagine all the artists affected in all the programs.
Well,
I mean,
the way of preparing for it in a positive way is just to keep on barreling through and keep on embodying what the art, how art is essential and crucial to the rehabilitation and of this nation. Remember, we need creative spirits and the artistic mind out there, especially in the rehabilitation of this country after post-COVID. As people have observed, this epidemic and pandemic, the way it has ravaged our structures politically, economically, creatively, is unprecedented, and it definitely needs collaboration with artistic and creative minds to come up with the most innovative solutions.
and some of it is happening now within CCP programs. So you might want to share the retooling efforts that CCP has been doing.
Can I share part more? It might be easy to understand what we're doing.
Sige po, para mas accessible sa lahat what's really happening with the.
Okay. I'm trying to share my screen. Okay. So we've like re-strategized some of our basically what CCP is doing during the quarantine period with ECQ. We call it ECQ. Of course, now it's different. We're in the GCQ period, in the post-COVID recovery period. The context of this is that we all know and how COVID has impacted the arts and cultural sector, not only in the Philippines, but all over the world. And definitely it has an impact on CCP programs, which were originally designed for live engagements and interaction. Although we've had some online programs going on in the past years, the shift has been major in terms of what has happened recently. The priority program areas at time of COVID and the post-COVID recovery period. We've had to prioritize some programs and postpone some or suspend some. So the impact, definitely, I think it's clear that we were not ready in terms of this health crisis. As you know, a lot of artists don't even have proper health maintenance systems or don't belong to health HMOs or don't even have health cards. And we know that a lot of artists are also freelancers, so it's a massive loss of livelihood. And if you're looking at the post-recovery period, it has been analyzed that live arts, including tourism and other industries that require gatherings of people, require like intimate physical face-to-face interactions to create work, produce work, distribute work, which includes travel, tourism, entertainment, live arts and culture, would be the slowest to recover. Right, so everyone else might start recovering, but the live arts and culture sector belong to this industry, which is expected to be the slowest to recover from the impact of COVID. But we do have some strengths that we'd like to rely on. And what is this? We have a robust social capital. Even before, artists have already networked, distributed their content, one way or the other, connected with their own communities in very good ways, and which we would like to see how we could tap into that kind of social capital. We have hale, hearty talents, we have hefty content, and this was very apparent during the early parts of the quarantine period, when one of the first communities to go online and organize fundraisers were artists who would fundraise for our frontliners, fundraise for fellow artists. We have a high level of volunteerism, although a lot of these freelancers who didn't even know where to get their next paycheck, they still volunteered a lot of their time and their talent to be able to help other communities. And happily, I think this could be said not only for artists, but a lot of Filipinos who have online or who have access to online technologies. We are early adapters to digital technology, and this helped in terms of our quick response using online technology. So therefore, there's an opportunity to do the following things. We can mobilize a network for local and national responses to COVID. We can broaden our engagement through online. We can innovate on production and delivery of arts and cultural content. And specifically to the CCP, I've mentioned this before. There's a large number of events, artists, jobs, audiences, and we're looking at least 90 million revenue loss in terms of sales. All performances and exhibit venues are closed. All rehearsal venues closed. Our businesses in the complex have been affected. Remember, the PICC, part of the PICC grounds has been transformed into COVID parang monitoring areas. So and of course the implications, the Bayanihan Hilas One Act, which we initially discussed. So what has our efforts in terms of addressing and being responsive to the quarantine and the post-COVID era has been focused on this strategy, which is to protect lives and livelihoods while continuing to deliver educational and inspiring content to Filipinos. So the operational words here are lives and livelihoods, which is high up on our priority. So what are the strategies? First, ensure that Filipinos continue to benefit from the educational, inspirational, and healing properties of arts and culture using alternative modes of engagement. And you're very familiar with this, Abner, having participated in a lot of our Arts for Healing and Arts for Therapy programs, which
Yes.
started even before this, right?
Mm.
Next is protect livelihoods in the arts and culture sector by continuing to employ artists in alternative production and distribution platforms. Invest in capabilities that equip artists and cultural workers to innovate on methods of production and distribution during the enhanced community quarantine, the post-COVID recovery period. And collaborate with artists and companies to digitize content in order to create new markets and new job opportunities in the arts. So the shift is really into digital distribution, digital content, and basically equipping our artists with the skills and the knowledge to be able to shift onto this platform. And we're looking at this not only as a response to COVID, but something that should continue post-COVID and enhance our live performing arts. The whole premise of this is not to completely move our operations online or arts online. The idea of this is an enhancement of the work that we're already doing, but the vision or the hope is still, and the great wish is still to get back on our live performance stages, because that is what gives our art its specific and discrete characteristic: the liveness, the being together in an auditorium, the applauding together, the face-to-face, the breathing together, and so on and so forth. So we are not abandoning the return to liveness. We are just transitioning, and then hopefully at some point when we get back to the live arts dimension of our work, these online strategies help in even broadening our reach. So unless you have questions, Abner, anytime.
By the way, for everyone who's watching, if you have any questions, maybe you can send us a message of your questions, kindly articulate it and send us to send it to Black Canvas Facebook page so we can ask Sir Chris. If you want to comment on the live stream, you can. And yeah, I see so many words. But sir, so maybe you can give us a, a simpler paano ba, version of these
Okay.
bullet points. What does it mean really
This is
for our
these are
friends
the
who?
different activities, and if you're an artist out there, you might be able to begin to think, I can connect with these things. I might need these things. These
Mhm,
are the nodal points where our artists and cultural workers and companies out there might be able to connect with, right? Or sync with. For example, we only have basically four priority programs. It is arts and culture online, live arts on lockdown, arts for therapy, and capacity building. So on arts and culture online, this refers to the streaming of archival recordings and HD recordings of the CCP, which we started, no, the CCP online program. We're also doing a documentation of how arts responded in the time of COVID. This is part
mhm,
of continuing to document what artists have done, because there's been so many very interesting content that has been shaped because of the experience of COVID. And I think this is a specific and unique time in the history of the world, in the history of our nation, the history of our community, in terms of how we responded to COVID in our own terms. So we seek to document that those artistic responses. Virtual
mhm,
reality galleries and museum. We're doing a virtual reality exhibits um, using 360 technology, architectural technology, and so on and so forth, online architectural technology to bring audiences virtually to our galleries. Partnerships and collaborations for education, fundraising, and communication, online resources to supplement homeschooling. When you say partnerships, for example, you're a company who performed
mhm,
at the CCP and you would
mhm,
like to access some of your digital content with us, and you say, can we use digital content for the fundraising of our company? This is definitely possible.
mhm,
So then we can partner on how to use a digital content, even help you and advise you in terms of how to put up your own platforms. So in
mhm,
short, and build your own digital platform. So if you
mhm,
have other like digital content that you've archived somewhere, you might be able to use it to raise awareness about your community, do your own fundraising
mhm,
efforts, and maybe in the future even develop some way of monetizing uh,
mhm,
the access to that content so that
mhm.
it can be
Sure,
sustained
that's
for a
very
longer term.
interesting, no? You mentioned about the access of the companies and artists who have done their shows in CCP and that they can actually get access to these video resources.
Right.
So how is the intellectual property at this time or post COVID or post quarantine will play a role on this, sir? I mean, are you got how rigid are the rules, or is it just a matter of yeah, you could just approach us and then we
Well,
give it to you.
CCP is covered by IPR rights that have been included in contracts with the recording this live shows. A clause in the contracts of the recordings that we have states that CCP is allowed to um, screen or screen these recordings as long as it's used for educational and promotional purposes.
Mhm,
So we are covered with regards to that. That's why most of our screenings only happen for a week, for a limited time. But if you go out and say, can we have access to that? And can we use it as a fundraiser? Then you will have to seek IPR clearances. And presuming that you were the creator of that content. You were a
mhm,
dance company or you were a theater company who worked with us, and you know all of the artists involved, then you could go on ahead and seek their permissions in terms of
mhm,
screening it and for the use for your specific use. And the
mhm,
moment you
mhm,
have that, then we can provide access. to the video.
So we just call CCP, sir? Is that
Yes,
something we
there
can
is
do, or check the website?
yes, there's a
About
24-hour hotline for the for CCP Online, and that's where you want to go and direct your queries in terms of how to collaborate with CCP with regards to this. Of course, there will be some kind of process involved, like an application for it. That will hopefully will just take maybe 4 or 5 working days, because we do need to clear IPR. We need to clear like your objectives and your intent. This is basically in protection of all the artists who were involved in this content.
Sir, I remember when you visit the library, you can have access to all these video resources. Did you mention that already? That program wherein, say, parang we have like access to shows that we want to watch. I mean,
no. That what you mentioned is when you walk in physically to our library, and then you can watch on. It's offline. Those videos are not online. So those videos are provided to you specifically for that purpose offline, where you are at the library. So
we don't have that yet.
No, we don't have that yet. We only have the CCP Online, which is a programmed release of different titles. But say you want to see specific videos that you were involved in for research, we're not set up for that yet.
Okay.
Live arts on lockdown. These are we're looking at different platforms to be able to come up with hybrid ways of delivering our performances, and the one that's coming up in a week is the Virgin Lab Fest. We decided to push with Virgin Lab Fest as a whole. Now, do the festival unflinchingly online. So with JK Anicoche as our festival director, he's now like he's been in constant discussion with all directors, actors involved on how to translate the experience of Virgin Lab Fest as a theater festival online. So
what's the feedback so far, sir? How are the artists experiencing the transition, the new the transitioning, the
well, right now I think the general feedback from the artists is just it's exciting, but quite difficult and challenging, and sometimes quite confusing. So I think that's really part of the ball game. And again, we are giving ourselves. I've been telling the whole team this, especially those involved in BLF. I said, be ready to fail and fail big time. And I think that's part of this whole experience. We're all in a learning curve in terms of doing this. But hey, I think the best thing that we could be, the worst thing that could come out of this is valuable learnings in terms of how we could conduct our live arts online.
Yeah, so, I remember when Virgin Lab Fest started during the time of Herbert Go. Wala masyadong audience sa CCP. Ay yung first few plays, halos wala talaga eh. It was such a risk, and then fast forward to, you know, you have nag-aagawan na ng tickets.
Yeah, it's sold out like 2 weeks in advance. It's
yes, and I'm wondering how is the marketing and promotion dealing with this, sir? Is it a
we're going
thing?
to
Is it a bad thing?
the whole Virgin Lab Fest is going to be a paid event. So it's going to be our first online event that's not going to be free, but of course it's going to be asking for subscription fees, but in a very popular fee, because I mean something that could be affordable for all. Remember, the Virgin Lab Fest will have at least 56 live sessions, which includes the main features, the 10 plays, the staged readings, the talkbacks with actors, the workshops, and so on and so forth. So one can virtually experience this from the comfort of your home or your mobile or your iPad or whatever. So what we're doing is migrate everything to Vimeo, and we're currently doing that now. And there will be some events that are going to be free, which gives you a taste test of what the full event or full activity might be. And there's a very minimal subscription fee that will allow you to access all of the events on that platform in a period of 2 weeks.
So I could just imagine that it would be interesting for those who are in the other parts of the country to learn from this. I mean, it could if
that's the opportunity that's been
artists,
presented by going
artists could
online.
learn how to put up still a festival with, because for sure there are programs in universities in other parts of outside Metro Manila especially. So I personally hope that there'll be access to educating our artists and cultural workers, then how to understand all these OBS, all these softwares that
Yes, we've started that. We've started a webinar, a 3-part webinar, which is basically parang introduction to the digital platform for idiots like me and many others. The first part was basically definition of terms, like looking at what getting a handle on what digital content means, what are digital assets, digital files, etc., and the different platforms, and how do you start to build your own archives, digital archives. And then the second part was looking at intellectual property rights in terms of protecting what you've got, and and also looking at protecting what other people have. The third, it was looking at marketing your content. So this was a 3-part webinar, which was very well attended, which was streamed live on Facebook, which was basically done on Zoom. We asked the help of experts, professors, practitioners, marketers who've had extensive experience to share their knowledge and their learnings in terms of what they do. So our webinars on this series of webinars, which we hope was very popular and which we hope to repeat, attracted more than like I'd say 1,000 viewers on Facebook, and there were about we limited 40 active registrants who could interact with our resource speakers. But it did get a lot of and hopefully since there is a clamor for more of this, we'll be doing this again. Yes.
Nice. So I'm also seeing arts for therapy, and you mentioned about how important this is right now. Can you expand more about this, sir? And
well, you've worked with our arts education department headed by Eva Salvador, and Eva has continued, and her team has continued to work closely with Department of Education, especially in looking now at how we could provide resource to long distance learning, online learning, homeschool learning, and so on and so forth. They're also developing a curriculum in terms of mental health and the arts. As you know, all of us, I think, are going through some kind of stress and anxiety. And at some point, we need to deal with this in our own communities, yung what they call as PTSD, no? Post-traumatic syndrome, di ba? And I think what better way than to come to terms with this using the arts that we know very well. And of course, sharing the same tools, collaborating with therapists on how to cascade this down to especially the young people or those who have been really direly affected by COVID in the quarantine. PPO front, center, and back is basically bringing PPO from the auditorium, which remember PPO season has been canceled. So we're looking at mobilizing the 60-strong member PPO to reach out to playrooms, to living rooms, even to bedsides of patients, to the stations of the frontliners, to offer them live and or recorded customizable playlists that would help them at least ease their discomfort or give some kind of musical salve to their situations. Capacity building, as I mentioned, we're developing training modules for the upskilling of artists, cultural workers in art therapy, digital communications technology. As we speak, I myself, even our team, are in a learning curve. So we're trying to get up to speed in terms of the latest in these online technologies. And as we move on, as we acquire these skills, we also try to share and the skills as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So those are our priority areas, and we always say the saradong gusali pero tuloy ang sining. The building might be closed, but art continues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's
Nice.
that.
Kakamiss din ang CCP. Started with, I think, the biggest cancellation was
Pasinaya.
Pasinaya, no?
The first one.
Yes, the open house festival, and still marami pang mga probably hindi pa na-recover dun sa yung mga sabik ng lumipad ng Manila at
that needs to be mentioned, Abner, no? Because Pasinaya, although was scheduled first week of February, we got into the decisions for canceling it way back in January. So just tells you how we anticipated what could have been a worse situation for our community. Because remember, Pasinaya attracts thousands of artists from all over the country and thousands of audiences at the center. And early in January, we took the safest route, which said, although it was difficult for us, we need to cancel it and anticipate this. And I think it was a very good decision to do so, because to a certain degree, we were able to protect our community.
Sir, you mentioned about protecting lives and livelihood, and yet and it seems to me that with all the meetings that you've done, everything is on the go with CCP. That everything is still kumbaga operating, transitioning to the virtual world. But you also mentioned about the fears, and I'm interested now to know about what, as you as an artist, as an artist leader, what are your fears about this, sir?
Well,
especially with what's happening globally right now and in the country, the maybe premature announcement of GCQ, or what are your fears personally?
Well,
that you confront?
my fear is that right now I still fear like stepping out, because I don't see like a system out there which assures me that I could confidently go out there and be protected. So although at the CCP we've started taking steps in terms of our skeletal staff to come back, in terms of adopting certain strict protocols in our offices, in the rehearsal halls, and so on and so forth. That's still at the back of your mind, because until I guess a vaccine has been put out there, everybody still continues to live under some kind of threat. But of course, we don't want that kind of fear to immobilize you, right? You don't want that to, and at some point, you just have to keep on looking for facts about this pandemic so that it properly informs you and shapes your next action. Otherwise, you're going to be numbed and immobilized by fear. So that said, what we're doing is, I think this is where really strategic thinking comes into play. You need to imagine a world, a whole phase wherein you're beginning to transition, a phase that completely at some point this is over, and then you have to look at the whole destruction that has been wrought to your community by this pandemic, and since you have the uh, quote unquote the luxury of time to think through things, maybe this is the time to see how you could anticipate uh, certain programs that could address rehabilitation, address rebuilding of communities, empowering communities that have lost a lot in terms of this pandemic. So
Sir,
this is what we're doing.
in the Philippines, sir, I think it's pretty obvious that we have been um, experiencing very flawed governance. um, from local leaders to our national leaders, a lot of confusion. Um, for the since this time, no. Do you think we can get there to that feeling of security and trust when we go out and
Well,
people now are saying,
you can only
bahala
do
kayo
it.
dyan, bahala na lang.
It's difficult kasi to embrace the whole government response, right? I would like to believe that they're doing their best, but as a government agency ourselves, what we try to do is do our best from our perspective in terms of culture and arts administration, and see how we could, given our resources and given what we have, see how we could maximize these resources to address what is out there.
What should be the artist doing right now, sir? If say nasa probinsya ako, I have dreams of maybe at one point in my life wanting to go to perform in CCP, or maybe go to to Cebu or to Bacolod, or just maybe stay in my community. But I can't even do that now, or I'm a young artist student, still studying my craft. What should I be doing right now?
Well,
Kung nasa
immediately, for if you're an artist based out in the region, or even like in Metro Manila and you're a freelancer, immediately I think take stock of your health, because I think the most important thing is your health. If you have to make any decisions, I think that should be top priority. Make sure you are not compromising any of your health conditions. Second, look at your livelihood. Look at how much you've got. Can you? A lot of us, a lot of the artists and communities might find themselves in dire straits in terms of actual living allowances, monies that they would need for rent, the monies they would need for the next grocery, monies that they would need even for emergency health situations. So there are immediate help that we might ask. Of course, there's the local barangay who might be helping out. Second, NCCA has laid out some specific assistance to artists. There's the program that was I don't know if it's still live though. The program that was put out by the FDCP, Film Development Council of the Philippines, looking at helping out assisting film workers as well as audiovisual workers, which are referring to freelance artists. And there are many other initiatives which is being carried out right now. It would be good to link yourself, associate yourself with these initiatives, so that if these large groups of associations go up to government agencies or lawmakers and so on and so forth, this gives more support and leverage to these groups and weight to this. In short, put your support to different initiatives that might revert back to your communities and to your own situation. Third, see how you can immediately, with regards to CCP, see if you've been an artist with CCP, or you think you can link up with some CCP programs, as I discussed. Don't hesitate to communicate with us. And what we're trying to do is, if there is some way that our program and activities might match your skills and your needs, then we can either help you get you back, give you some skills in terms of coping with your situation, or even be part of a program that might allow you some kind of remuneration.
Mm-mm.
For the long term, I guess right now I cannot right honestly, we're also dealing with this in almost like a day-to-day basis. Um, like the CCP, fortunately, continues to get subsidy from government, but how long this will last, we don't know. Remember, arts and culture has always been a low priority in terms of administrations, unfortunately and sadly. So if this government decides to cut back, I won't be surprised if the arts and culture budget would be the first to be cut. In
Why
fact,
did you, why are you, I think parang alam ko naman siya, but just for our audiences, bakit niyo nasabi, sir, na isa tayo sa mga unang tatanggalan nila?
not hindi naman tatanggalin but cut back, no, in terms of because as I think it has been a mindset for most administrations of this country, sadly, that arts and culture is not a priority, and those are the things that we've been pushing through so many years. So it continues to be a struggle, and at this point, if already we've been asked to cut our budget by more than 45%. So that's across all the different programs. So that's a sign in terms of what might be coming. So this year we're fortunate that we can continue with some of our programs online, but who knows what will happen in 2021.
Have you terminated employees, sir? Are there?
No, we're not allowed to do that since we're a government agency.
So even the maintenance, how about the guards? How are
the
they affected?
contractuals we maintain the contractuals, yes. So no one has been terminated. No one has been, especially if you're a part employees and if you're a contractual.
So it's still intact. All jobs are still.
Yes, although what needs to be addressed are the artists.
Sir, there's so many artists who
again,
thrive on freelancers.
Yes.
Who are I think have always been performing CCP, working with CCP.
Yeah.
They survive through gig culture, and
right.
How do you feel about them? What's the best way to survive during this time? If there's because most of them are, maybe they have very little savings to none, and some are just developing their network, and others are probably too shy to present themselves asking for help, or maybe, so ano kaya ito yung freelance industry, sir? Kasi mas marami I think ang freelance kaysa sa mga talagang like with resident companies of CCP compared to the many freelance actors, at least sa theater pa lang. Parang what's the economy like for how will the donation system be sustainable? Is it
No,
sustainable?
I don't think the donation system is sustainable. Well, I can only answer in relation to what we're doing at the CCP. If you were a freelance person who was supposed to work with CCP in its programs that are planned for 2020, as I said, it might be good to check in with your arts administrator and check the status of this project in terms of its online migration, and maybe find an opportunity there to continue to engage and hopefully being remunerated. For freelancers in general, I know there's there's at least two initiatives. An alliance of different freelancers have been put up to call the attention of our legislators to consider this large group of freelancers in the post-COVID development programs of the government, and to count them in as industry workers. So if this pushes through, then that should help a lot in terms of alleviate the situation of our freelancers. But then again, I would say this will take a bit of time. And if there's an immediate need, I guess at this point, everyone needs to look for other ways of support outside of government. And right now, for example, personally, I quote unquote like sort of like adopted 2 or 3 friends of mine who are freelancers and try to find out what they need and in terms
Take
of
care of
what, oh, yeah,
them.
and I think we should just take care of each other at this point. If you have um, some extra resources to share, then it might help 2 or 3 people. And start with the 2 or 3 people we could help.
So this is also a call for those who have more to share. And kasi parang it seems like we're all in a way we're doing our best, but or the CCP, for instance, have been protecting the livelihood, and it's something that we really need to recognize and appreciate. But at the same time, it doesn't erase the fact also that there are really so many freelance artists, not only in Metro Manila, who are highly affected by the situation. And parang what I'm getting this from you, sir, is to always find a way to connect, where to to ask help, to give help.
Yeah, what I'm saying
That's
is
what I'm
this is the
getting from
time
you.
to really like mobilize our what we call the specific social capital that we as Filipino artists have built throughout the years. Remember, we're so very close knit as an arts and culture community. So we do have friends around us. We don't live in isolation. And in the past, that has practically tided us through different difficulties as well. Remember, a lot of our groups are not really like funded the way I guess other international groups are funded in other countries. So they've practically been sustaining themselves through the kindness of strangers. So maybe this is the time to really like go back to these connections and see how these connections could mobilize to a certain to tide us over. So there are friends, there are family, even family, and of course there is the institutional. We're looking at NCCA, CCP, even your barangay. So go to examine these different levels of potential support and try to mobilize and get as much as you can.
So parang nakukuha ko, sir, is look at where you are in terms of proximity, yung lapit ng taong to,
right,
in terms of
right.
I mean, it is not necessarily something that we
Like,
want to happen.
right.
And personally, I have views about that. Pero parang from this conversation, what I'm getting is that we have to recognize the limitations of the government and even of our institutions, and connect to the people who are very close to us, whom we can trust, whom we can ask support from, and maybe from that very connection, that intimate connection, we can do something from there. Baka dun.
Yeah,
Kasi
from a
I've
very
been listening to many
to use a term
performances.
from very cellular level, from the
Yes,
family
yes, yes.
level. Yeah, like for example, me and my friends, even some of my friends live abroad. We've decided just to like we pinpointed some friends who might need support, and we said, okay, among us who can lend out and reach out support to this friend of ours, and we would do that. Second, and we will look at whom can where can we which groups can we support. So we for example pinpointed on a youth theater group who's with the peasant community, who continue to do work and do some information work with peasants with the farmers. So we've zoomed in on that, and we would send, if not monies, food to maintain these young people. If there are some immediate like emergency needs of one friend, then we try to mobilize support. And I think this is being done around different pockets of communities as well. And I think that's how we've been addressing this in a piecemeal basis. Of course, we're continuing to hope that the government lays out a clearer plan in terms of addressing these needs, because so of course at some point your personal finances will also get depleted.
Yes, sir, I've been studying while I'm here. So just for the knowledge of everyone, I'm in Indianapolis right now, still under my Asian Cultural Council grant. But I myself is heading a collective, and we try our best to, at least if not financially yet, to be a support system to each other. I mean, sometimes it doesn't only ano eh, mean financial support. There's also a lot of emotional support that we
Right.
have to give to each other, and from there
Yes.
we can sort of gain a sense of zest. Na, okay, this is what I'm gonna do now. This is what I'm gonna do next. Because there's just so many. I mean, I think there's also a double edge here in social media. Something that really opens you up to all the details, and something that
Yes.
also exhausts you. How do you position yourself in this platform, sir? Now that we are, sabi niyo nga, there's online migration. Uh,
Well,
how do you balance that out?
don't forget the power of just saying hello.
Mhm,
Just don't forget the power of just asking kamusta ka na, or how are you,
mhm,
right? Receiving calls like this really makes you like feel that you're not alone in this, and that that you maintain very important connections, more important than Zoom or video conferencing, that goes beyond this. And remember, a lot of, especially our elders, are not connected to Zoom. They might have cell phones, luckily, or even landlines. So don't forget to reach out and just say hello
mhm,
and find out how they are. And if there is a need, there's look for the best way, or what you can, what's affordable to you, to reach out
mhm,
and
mhm,
uh, answer that need.
mhm.
So
Have you
don't
been
forget to say
getting that,
hello.
sir? That kind of emotional support during this time? It must be so challenging for
Yes.
you to quickly respond to the situation with all the department managers of CCP. Where are you getting your energy?
Well, it helps that you live with people. You live
Mhm,
with housemates who are supportive too. So that keeps you sane. It helps. Pets help.
mhm,
When you see your pet like lying around and feeling relaxed and almost anxiety free, you're reminded, okay, you just need pala to sit in the sunlight like them to feel quite contented and happy. And there's so much sunlight out there. Also,
mhm,
you just need to chill out like your Labrador, just like chilling out under the fan, and then everything will feel okay, at least temporarily. So you do get a lot of, learn a lot from people who live around you. And of course, I'm pretty sure it's going to be more difficult for people who live alone. And I think that's all the more reason that we should be very aware of these friends who might be living alone, who
mhm,
might need our, not only um, uh, financial help, but also our emotional help.
mhm. You've been working from home, sir, since, and you do all your meetings through Zoom. Is this an 8 to 5 thing pa rin, or do you make a lot of extensions? Is it like,
No, it
are you
started just
doing
like
more work?
it just
Are you
started
doing
like
more work now? Or
Yeah. Actually, I find it exhausting, more exhausting than face-to-face meetings.
mm,
Um, well, for one, unlike face-to-face meetings, you have people you well, it's exhausting to see yourself on screen.
mm, mm,
you
mm,
know, it's
mm,
when you're doing a face-to-face meeting, you don't see yourself, you see other
mm,
people. It's so
mm,
exhausting to see yourself and look at the other faces on the screen, and so on and so forth. So it's a
mm.
different mindset, I guess.
Yeah.
And then looking at the screen can be tiring, straining to the eyes physically. So I've been trying to limit where once I used to do like back-to-back meetings at the CCP. I'm trying to avoid doing this on Zoom because it's really tiring.
Mm, mhm, mhm. Yes, parang that's something very interesting that you mentioned, sir. When you go online, it's so inevitable that you see yourself on
I
screen. That
know,
although I
yeah,
look at you right now, the image bounces back at me, and I'm still looking at my phone. So
right,
um, it's not. Kumbaga, the practice of empathy is also very different here.
right.
I mean, I can listen to you, but I
No,
cannot say.
you're in face-to-face communications, you're monitoring yourself in relation to others. Now you're monitoring your own facial expressions and making sure your facial expressions are okay. You look better in the light, and also so it's so many things going on at the same time. So it's a bit tiring, unless there's a way of shutting off the video.
Right.
I know there is a way of like, like, I guess, hide self view. There you go. Yeah, that can be done.
Or like what you're doing right now, change your background, go to another place, pretend as if like you're in the space. Sir, siguro as we close this, no, I, how are you coping when you're exhausted? Kasi of course you're the vice president of CCP, artistic director, but you're still you as a
Yes.
human
Well,
being.
one thing that we
you're
really need to
you're
remember.
like
Yeah.
the many people who get exhausted, and in
Yeah.
those moments when you don't know where to go next, what to decide, what to do next, in you also get overwhelmed by the news and your imagination of the
Right.
future. Where do
Well, I have
what
to
do you
tell
do?
you honestly, my sleep has been really bad. Since the beginning, I haven't had normal sleeping hours. I find myself that I couldn't sleep at night. I need to, parang I developed like insomnia, and I think it's part of anxiety. Second, I developed an obsession, and I read somewhere that it's a way of you mentally coping with anxiety. And this is obsession that I try to cook a different dish every day and for every meal without repeating myself. And it's become such an obsession that I document it. Of course I don't show it on Facebook or everything, but it's become such an obsession. And then later on I found out, okay, this is my way of occupying, taking my mind off. Challenging myself by coming up with something new every time so that it takes my mind off
Mm,
anxiety, and it has helped.
mm, mm.
Third, it has helped that I don't watch the news as much as I often do.
You don't?
Watch the news.
Mm,
The news is quite stressful because it's the news that's streaming in is horrible, coming
mm,
from not only your country but from all over the world.
mm,
So I've limited watching the news. Sometimes I don't watch the news completely. I just like limit myself to like 10 or 15 minutes of news, and then I don't watch the news anymore. Um, it exercise. I make sure I get my bike has been rusty for so many years, and now I find new joy in riding my bike just around the neighborhood and getting that
mm,
wind on your face and looking at the neighbors, of course, wearing your mask if
mm,
you're out, and
mm,
getting some sunlight helps a lot. It's those
mm,
those simple things help a lot.
mm,
It develop a, I've developed a routine that at certain times of the day, this is the time I do my I check my mail. This is the time I step out and walk the dogs. This is the time I cook. This is the time I exercise. This is the time I sit down, read a book, and even I play. I've learned how to play games. Oh my goodness!
What
I
games? Anong
well,
online?
I play my. I have a Nintendo Switch, so I finished Super Mario Odyssey, and now I'm on Zelda. I'm trying to get into Animal Crossing because I heard Animal Crossing has virtual worlds, and a lot of museums and cultural centers are on Animal Crossing. So we're also looking at how CCP can be on Animal Crossing, so that
Uh-huh,
we can,
uh-huh,
you know,
uh-huh,
all
uh-huh.
those online games.
Yes,
So yeah, so developing a routine
mm,
helps a lot. But I think what is important is really human interaction.
human interaction.
Yes.
Mm, mm. Uh, do you think we'll ever get there again, sir? That
Oh
that
yeah,
that having to
definitely,
trust itself.
definitely. I think this is all but temporary. It might be a change environment, and that's necessary. That's part of how the world and humanity evolves. So we just, I hope it happens sooner rather than later. And when we're there, we hope that this we come out of this whole condition more innovative, more creative, and more joyous in terms of uh, what we appreciate.
Mm, mm. Sir, it's January 1, 2021. Say we survived 2020 and, walang comet or whatever creature, walang alien invasion na nangyari. Um, what 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 are you doing now? Whether you
January
as
1, 2021 is my father's birthday, who passed
Mhm.
away many years
Where
ago.
are you? What CCP like? What is
January
what are you
2021,
doing?
I will be having lunch with my family and celebrating my father's birthday and embracing each other, kissing each other on the cheeks. And there will still be an online version because a lot of our family members are in different parts of the world. So
Mhm,
that's
mhm,
what we're going to do on January 1.
mhm. Yeah. This has been so wonderful, sir. This is really coming from a question of what makes us alive right now.
Mhm.
Uh, I've gotten so many points from for discussion from all the lectures that I've been following, all conversations also privately, and it's recurring, no? All these transitions, all these loneliness, and I think what I appreciate is that we are doing something. The institution is doing something, and yet we are recognizing that uh, there are things that are also beyond our control, and that there's some self-sustainability that should happen. Also, parang I need to take care of myself, my health, and my family. Parang it literally parang it goes back to that. Oh nga, parang do I really go that far to kasi for sure maraming nananaginip pero paano na yung plans ko? This
Yeah.
shows
Yeah,
paano na
well,
yung
one thing that we need to remember is that going back to the notion of staying alive, is that we need to go back to our instincts that has made us survive as artists throughout these many years. And one of these instincts is the instinct to adapt immediately, the instinct to improvise. And we're very good at that as artists. You throw in a situation, you throw in a where, a who, a what, and immediately we come up with a story. You throw in a prop and we transform it into something else, right? We build from nothing. We build from air and start to come up with craft, like certain ideas and situations, and even like a whole condition. So trust this instinct. Trust this instinct to improvise. Trust this instinct to adapt. I think that will keep us alive as artists.
that is what makes us alive.
Yes.
Trust to adapt. That is what is making you alive now, Sir Chris Millado.
Yes. True.
Okay. So I think that's it. We've talked a lot, sir, but I'm sure marami din na hindi pa din explore. I still have so many other questions, but
Yeah, don't
uh
hesitate to
yes,
communicate with us. Yeah.
yes. So maybe we can after this post we just started this, sir. The next time we will talk to Gilan Larca and
Wait. I
Olive
think
Nieto.
I think
And
my puppy is knocking on the door. Continue talking. I'll
okay.
just open the door for him.
Yes. So for everyone who's watching, thank you so much. Watch out for Gilan Garca, Olive Nieto, and Rafi Tihada. I hope that they will have a common time soon. Either June, what day is tomorrow? June 3 or June 4. We'll discuss how arts educators are from the universities are adapting to this. What are their thoughts and reflections on this? What are their visions? How do they see this going? How are they navigating? So I think it's very important that while we respond to this on a very physical level, we help each other, provide food and etc. We, we also have to have a function of dreaming together. And this is a small effort of Black Canvas. This is for free, but we encourage you to donate. But this is not required. We plan to receive cash donations or goods or services or partnerships or even gadgets. Because we everybody has to have access at this point to internet and gadgets, and not all people, as we talk right here, have that access. So I thought we thought if you have extra gadget, maybe if you want to donate, and we can find a family who will benefit from it, because we have programs that are intended for families. So we have a playtime, we have a collab, we have a what's it called, Kids Zone, and this Alive series. So Sir Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
For
thank you. Thank you.
sharing.
And you mentioned gadgets, please. I think I do have a few of these gadgets which I've been thinking of, like how to dispose, and they might have use for them.
Yes, also
So,
kasi
yeah,
maraming
please
families
send
na
me a message.
yes sir. Oo, sige, we can do that kasi we plan to to find those who whom we can engage in our activities na alam mo yun, na wala talagang access. So parang the idea really is something that's more paano ba? Coexistence ba? Yung we recognize those who, just like what you said, you provide help if you think you can help, and I think it is not very bad at all to ask help if you need help.
Yeah.
So, and I think most of the artists, and I'm not generalizing, can be, pwedeng magdili-dali sa asking for help sometimes kasi, but I think it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, I need this right now. I'm getting hungry. So parang ako personally, parang I hope that artists can be more vocal, not only helping other people, but also really helping the self. Then kung talagang nagugutom ka or you're mentally unstable, then you can seek help. So yun lang, Sir Chris.
Thank you.
Yes, salamat po. This will be very helpful for many
Barney's
artists.
here. Barney is he's turning 16 this weekend. So in human years, that's 160 years old.
100? Okay.
Yes.
But talaga ang so, and you also mentioned about sunlight twice, sir, and
yes.
I just want to emphasize that it's also something that's very important to recognize. There are these, they exist, they still exist. The trees, the
light
the
is
air,
important. Light.
Everything. Light still exists. The moon is still there. Yeah. And yes, so this is a live Redirections with Chris Millado. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat.
Yes, follow Black Canvas social media accounts to get latest updates. We don't have regular schedule, so depende. It's very random. So just if you want to know more about these projects or programs offered for free for everyone, please follow us. Or if you have any kind of support, if you want to work with us, just like what Sir Chris says, then please approach us, or artists or groups that are doing so many wonderful efforts, have been doing so many wonderful efforts during this period. No? And we hope to talk to them also. Maraming salamat, Sir Chris, and I hope you stay safe and stay colorful, stay alive.
Thank you. Maraming salamat. And continue to stay safe where you are.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.